Alright, welcome back to the channel everyone. So we are going to continue looking at the Tokai Open, which happens here in Nagoya, Japan. We just covered the first round game in the previous video, and now we're going to continue to round two. This is a two-day tournament, by the way, with 5 rounds. So the first day has got multiple rounds to go. And we had a bit of a cold when we took the train to Nagoya in the first place, so the first game was a little bit rough. I remember kind of like sitting in the hallway where I can see the board while my opponent is thinking, just so I can like take off my mask and relax, because it's not COVID anymore, but people are still a bit uncomfortable if you're sick across the board, and I don't want to make other people sick, so I was trying to keep things a little bit clean for everyone involved, but yeah, it did not feel good. Anyway, now it's round two. The day's a little bit further. I've had a bit of food and I'm feeling a little bit better. I'm tired, but I think I can sit down and have a second game, which is good because it is round two already. So I'm trotting out my first new FIDE rating for this tournament, by the way. And in this round two game, I'm still playing someone who is slightly lower rated, Yuma Akagiri, who is another person I don't know, by the way. So very happy to play more opponents that I don't know. It's nice to go to a Nagoya and play a group of chess players who I haven't seen before. So with white, open with d4. They decide to go knight f6. This could be many things still. I go c4 and they go g6. This is now most likely a King's Indian defense. And I decide I'll go knight c3, and I'm expecting now bishop g7, and oh, they instead play d5. All right, so good. Now we're in the Grunfeld. In the past, I've also played f3 in this position, which is the anti-Grunfeld Alakine. Anyway, it's the anti-Grunfeld, and the point is that if they do play d5 anyway, you can take, and then you can play e4, and just get an amazing kind of pawn structure as the white player, and black has kind of given you just a nice advantage out of the opening. But in this game, I didn't expect it, and I wasn't really planning for that position specifically. So knight g3, d5, okay. And I don't have any amazing prep against the Grünfeld. I know kind of a few basic ideas, and I know the rough exchange variations, so I just play it. Play e4, they take my knight, which is normal. I take back with my pawn. And here bishop g7 is also a normal move. And now black's basically going to put a lot of pressure on my d4 pawn. So they're gonna get about 4 attackers there, and I have to be quick because I also have to get the same amount of defenders. Otherwise, my position kind of crumbles. They have a nice long diagonal bishop as well. So in this position, bishop c4 is the main move, but I actually continued kind of in a different way. I continued with knight f3, and so a knight f3 is not the best move, and knight f3 in this position and others allows bishop g4. But here it doesn't matter so much yet. That pawn isn't going to go anywhere because it's still protected by another pawn. And their dark square bishop is not going to get sacked for 2 pawns out of the opening, I think. So in this position, I could break the pawn, I could play h3. This is still okay. And I remember actually the reason why I played knight f3, why I thought that should be okay, is because I remembered watching a video of someone else's tournament. One of the chess dojo guys, I forgot which one, the younger guy who wears glasses. Apologies, I forgot your name. Anyway, really nice guy. He was doing some tournament recaps of his own, and I remember him playing the Grunfeld from the white side and playing knight f3 and saying like it's actually okay, you can do this and this and this. I didn't specifically remember what the this and this and this part was, but I thought, oh yeah, okay, so knight f3 is okay. But it didn't really matter in the end because black didn't try and punish me directly. They just decided to play c5, which is the standard continuation anyway. And here what I'm supposed to do is I can kind of check with my light square bishop, or I can just move it out, or I can defend the pawn with my dark square bishop. Another move that scores very well for white is actually just to play rook b1, and I think that's actually the master's main move. Quickly, just rook b1 is the main move, just coming out onto the open diagonal immediately, and also getting open file immediately, and getting off this diagonal that black is trying to break down. But I continued just with bishop g4, which was actually the move I should have played the previous time. That is the correct continuation, because then you can play knight e2, and you also have f3 to still get that pretty pawn structure that we were considering in the anti-Grunfeld line. Okay, but anyway, so black castles, I castle, that's fantastic. And here black can already take. They can take the pawn, and I have to take back, and then they can play knight c6, and this line scores fine for black, and this is a way to play, and maybe I would defend it with my pawn, and then other things can happen. They can come after my knight, and maybe I would lose the pawn in the end, but it would still be just a game. But in this case, actually, black gave me the impression that they knew a position for the exchange variation, not the best like move the move orders, but they kind of knew the position they were going for. And so I felt like they were playing kind of the moves in the wrong order, but they were all kind of all natural moves, all the moves that kind of go towards the same position. So queen g7, and then here I decided, okay, cool, if you're going to take your queen off that file and also stop attacking my pawn a bit, I can do the same. So now I can bring my rook in when they bring their rook in, and we're still kind of on equal footing. And here they decided to finally pin my knight, but this isn't the end of the world. I can just continue developing, and I do. So here, and so if they take here, I can take back with my pawn, or I can take back with my queen because my pawn is sufficiently defended. Now though, my pawn is starting to feel the pressure a little bit. Oh, I need some more power. And so I decide I'm going to move my a rook over so I can get off that long diagonal, which is so scary, and at the same time also defend my d pawn. And now I have to plug this in. Right, there we go. So in this position, I feel like my opening has gone fairly well. I like the general setup. I didn't really have, as I said, some specific line that would give me an amazing opening advantage, but it seemed everything was going okay, so I didn't have any big complaints, and the engine says, yeah, okay, we're all zeros, equal, chess is a draw, well done. So here they decided to take, and this is still fine, so I take back, and then they play e6. Again, that feeling that they're kind of playing a position that they've planned beforehand rather than the position on the board as such. But I also don't have the exact, knowledge about how to punish them not playing the best move orders. So we're kind of just going for a middle game position that both of us roughly know. At least that was my take during the game. So here I play h3. They can't pull their bishop back anymore, so I get the bishop pair now, which is nice. And I'm supposed to take here with my g pawn, and it's okay, but I was a little bit unsure about it. So the best line here is actually taking with the g pawn, and then from there, I mean, you could push up the pawns if you wanted to, or you could just move your bishop across maybe in this way to take the diagonal against their queen. I can even just push to, blockade the dark squares again, and then I can keep on trying to protect the d pawn, or I can actually just try and trade the knight. Like, there's a few different ways I can try and play this. I could try and go for the queen side, try and get their b pawn, for instance. But I wasn't so sure, so I just took with the queen instead. And here I allow a small tactic. My light square bishop is undefended because my queen moved, and black now has a choice about how they want to jump their knight. They can jump it by either taking a pawn, or they can just jump it in front of my pawns. And whatever I do, obviously my light square bishop is also going to hang because I can't sack it, with check or something like that. So the best move for them was actually just to take the pawn. And then I would have to take back with my dark square bishop. I do have this plan of trading the dark square bishops off, so I wouldn't be super unhappy about that. But they would be able to get my light square bishop, and in this position, like the game's basically a draw. My a pawn is kind of weak. Maybe I would want to move it. So maybe I would move up one, or maybe I would, bring a rook up instead first and try double up on the file. I'm not so sure. Although actually in the game what I did was slightly different, and we did get to a similar is position. So they didn't jump their knight up to take the pawn. They actually just jumped it to hit my queen. It's the same position, except I get to keep the pawn for a little bit longer, and I get to take their knight with it, but I still lose my light square bishop because it's undefended and I need to take care of it. I can't go back and defend the bishop because it's still attacked twice, so it would fall. So I think that's kind of maybe a small miscalculation on black side. So I take and they take. In this position then, like I just said, my a pawn is weak, but during the game I thought, I have this pawn, I have this bishop, they have a dark square bishop. If I can trade these bishops off, I wonder if there's a way for me to try and get a point here. Given how my tournament started, the chances I had, the ones that I didn't know how to realize, I was trying to find a way to maybe play for an attack here instead. So instead of defending my a pawn, I actually just played rook d7. And I said, well, thank you very much for allowing me to get onto your second rank or the seventh rank on the board. I'm thinking I might double up and I might actually come here. Maybe I can even find a way to double on your seventh rank and give you some real problems in the position. So here they bring their queen back. They take my rook, which is a fine move, I guess. It also defends the b pawn, which is something that I was attacking with my move. And I double up. Fantastic. I got it. So both my rooks are now active. Theirs are still passive. They can't put a rook over there because I would take twice and actually win one. But they do bring their a rook over to the c file because it's open. So this gives them some potential activity further down the line. They might be able to, for instance, bring their rook over to c7 as well, and then they can try to take twice, so I will maybe have to take or have to push it to the back or something. Right, so they can slowly push me out of their 7th rank, it turns out. Alright, but that does allow me to take the a pawn. Maybe if you can see here that a pawn is looking pretty weak. So I'm considering should I take the a pawn or not. I figure actually what I want to do is I want to misplace that queen of theirs a bit more. So I play rook 1d16, how do I call it? Rook 1d6. So both rooks are on the file. I take the one that's on square 1. I move it to 6. I'm now hitting the queen, making it more difficult to take care of that b pawn, and trying to see if I can get their queen to just kind of run away. And because I'd be happy to trade and then kind of just get doubled up on that 7th rank. I feel like there might be some ways for me to make something happen there. They do obviously have a check in this case. Oh, sorry, no, they don't. Sorry, they don't have a check because I'm looking after this c1 with c1 square with my bishop. Did forget that for a second. So instead, they just play over to b5. b5 still looking at my pawn that they haven't retaken yet, still defending that b pawn as well. And here I actually just go, okay, just go away. I don't want your queen looking after your b pawn anymore. I want this queen to move. And I'm also wondering if I can maybe put some pressure on the f1, on the f pawn. And if, for instance, they come now and they come and check me on the b square, it actually doesn't matter. I can block with my rook if I have to. I can also just run off. But if I run off, it might be bad, right? Because I'll lose the exchange. In this case, for instance, here, whoopsie daisy, my rook's going to be running dead, right? So maybe they do this, and I have to take maybe with my bishop, maybe with my rook. The one advantage here is, and this is kind of what I was thinking about in the game, not specifically this kind of continuation, was if I can get rid of the dark square bishop, there's some chances here around their king. Especially because my queen is in that area and their queen hasn't been able to come back to it. So I thought that there might be some chances here. So if, for instance, I did this and then I'm just going to give black a move, I can go here to block off that diagonal. So I mean, I don't know, I would have to move back and then find a way in here. It would take a while, but the idea being that with an e pawn on e5, I'd be able to kind of cut off the access. My queen could also land there with check if it needed to, for instance, if the king was up on g7, for instance. So I had some rough ideas, although no specific way to make it happen in my head. So after a4, though, they just took the e pawn. So now I only have one left, but I didn't think I would keep that pawn anyway. And the one thing that is nice for them about this is if I take the b pawn, now my rook hangs. So let's not do that. So instead of that, they decide I'm going to play g3. Two reasons for it. Number one is I don't want to have any problems in that diagonal. Like I just showed, if my king went to h2, it's on the dark square diagonal, which they currently control, and my rook is also on there, so I don't want to have any kind of forking problems. And also I do want to give my king a square to get out, so g3 is now available because I've lifted all my rooks, right? So my back rank is open, so I've got to be careful. So in this position, they decided to defend their own pawns, so they moved their b pawn to b6. I still can't take the a pawn because my other rook hangs, and they also protected now against my dark square bishop, so fair enough. But what this allows me to do is it allows me to trade off the dark square bishops, which I was hoping to do after I realized I'm probably going to try and push some kind of attack on the king side, and I can play bishop d4 here. So it's a very nice skewer down onto the dark squared bishop. So I'm looking to trade those off to find a way to play e5 without losing the pawn, and maybe get my queen into f6, and find a way to put some pressure on the 7th rank, maybe doubling up. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. I don't know if there's a win in there, but I wanna put that kind of pressure on my opponent. And by the way, the position is apparently, according to the engine, completely equal. All right, so in this position, what Black did was a mistake. They decided they're going to come in with a intermezzo. They're going to play rook c1 check, but that's actually a mistake. And the reason is that there's no strong continuation with that rook, and instead it just has one less. They just have one less defender on their own king side, which I'm currently trying to get into, or maybe even on the queen side with those 2 pawns, where I can maybe get my other rook around and attack the a pawn. Alright, so very, very enticing move for Black. I did know that they could play it, which is also partly why I played g3, but it actually turned out to be a mistake. I didn't plan it to be a mistake, but I was happy to see them do it because I felt like there's no big advantage they can get from that, and instead, I still have 2 rooks in their area. So king goes up, and here they go over. So now I have to be careful though, because they have this move, and that is dangerous. That would be mate on the back rank here. So I got to be careful about how I go. But actually the best continuation is just to go rook d8. And the point is that if you take here, apologies, I can take and I can check, or I can, take once, and then I can bring my queen in first, or like something danger zone. Oh, sorry, what am I saying? These rooks protect each other, and if I don't take, even if you take, I take back, I still have the rook majority, and I also have the dark squares to come in around your king. I'm talking rubbish here, sorry. So the point is that I've got this defended. So if, for instance, oopsie daisy, if you take here, then I could still try and go back. I can also take in, and then your dark squares would be really, really weak. So if I go here, for instance, I still have this, and even if you come in here, I'd be able to find a way to punish you. Because I can come in here, hitting your rook, also coming in to potentially check your king on the back rank, and your queen won't be able to stop the checks on the back. So one way or another, I'll be able to get around your king, check him, and maybe even find a way to win something extra. Instead, though, I didn't realize that, and I went with my plan. So I had a plan, right? I'm trading off the dark square bishops. So I went and took it, and unfortunately it's equal again, but this is the way we're going. We're trying to create a empty kind of space around the king. The dark square is undefended. That's really our goal here. And now Black went wrong. So Black sees their attacking plan, Queen e1, looking very dangerous, and I have to be very careful, because if, for instance, they play Queen e1 and I decide, okay, cool, I'm going to play h4 to be able to get away, they can play Queen h1 and it's mate, because it covers everything, and my own queen is the reason why my king can't get to safety. So if they come back here, oh, I just spoiled it, and I play up there, again, they could come behind me and checkmate me. However, after they play Queen e1, the move I just spoiled by accident, I found a really, really nice in-between move here, and that is to bring my rook back to the d1 square, cutting off their battery between the rook and the queen. Very, very critical. If this rook was on the b file, I lose. It's only because it's in between the rook and the queen that it works, and only because it's got 2 defenders. Because it's also being attacked twice in that position. So if my queen wasn't around, they'd be able to take and take again, and I would just lose a rook. If the rook was on the b or a file, for instance, then they would still just checkmate me. So this was a very, very, very important move to see before I decided to allow Queen e1. So here I'm actually doing really well, and I saw that I can play this move, so I did. And after they take, I take again, and now their queen has nothing defending it. and has no protection against that rook to be able to run in, so they have to run back, and now they drop their own rook as well. And after this, I finally played e5, the move I had been waiting for out of the opening the whole time, to be able to stop their king from being able to come out, having a spot to bring my rook, having a spot to bring my queen in as well, and clearly white is just for choice here right now. So they decided to take my pawn. Maybe they can create some action with their passes, but it's obviously way too slow. And so here I check, and they have a few ways they can go in, but unfortunately none of them really work. For instance, if they go here, this is actually just a really cool mate, right? Because now I'm X-raying my rook so they can't take it, and the rook is covering all the squares around it. So they run backwards, and I decide, okay, cool, I'm going to stop their queen from being able to come in on uh, this row, and I'm also going to try and keep their king from being able to run in there. I'm just slowly trying to kind of box their king out. I could have tried to play g5 immediately if I was cheating, because if I could do that, I'd be winning, right? Because then the next move would be here, and then they have nowhere else to go in its mate. But I can't quite do that yet, so this is a good move to get there, and it's also a good move just on the bit in between because it stops their queen from coming back. Although I guess here it would have been taken by a pawn, so maybe there was no threat and I was seeing a few ghosts at this point as well. And here they brought the queen back. They're obviously trying to find a way to, I don't know, just make some kind of action happen. They know that their pawns are too slow, but there's just no way. It's mate in 4 now. So here comes my queen. They only have one move. Here comes my pawn. They only have one move. And then I go rook h8, and the next move for me is to take their pawn at the back, and it's mate. The king can't come out. It only goes down, which means the file is still mate, can't go back. And there's no way for them to stop that pawn from being taken because their queen is on the wrong side of the board. So they play queen b2. Nice of them, I guess, to let me get the mate on the board. And with rook x h7, I finally got a mate, and I got my first point. Thankfully, this tournament is getting a little bit of momentum now. 1 point on the board, going into round 3. So overall, I was quite happy with the game. I knew I wasn't playing the best way in the opening because I knew my opponent wasn't playing the best way, but I didn't know what to do about that. So I did think I have a bit of learning to do about the Grunfeld from the white side. I also kind of regretted knight f3, not because it mattered in the game, but because afterwards I realized that I didn't exactly know how to answer, the quick bishop g4, even though it's not that bad. I don't know, like or maybe not in this position, maybe like 2 moves on. I just realized I don't have quite the knowledge to be able to play that position correctly. So if you put this on the position on this board, if you put this position on the board for me tomorrow, I would just play bishop c4, which is the best move, and then play knight e2, oopsie daisy, knight e2 and f3 if I have to. That just seems like a easier way to develop, very harmonious and kind of very logical with the moves for every piece. So yeah, so that was one thing, and then afterwards also with this whole kind of opening up, I realized that my bishop on c4 should either be defended or should move, because I didn't like making this choice between the g-pawn or my queen, even though it turns out that it was a great choice and taking with the g-pawn was perfectly fine. I didn't want to have to give myself this problem, which again means that knight f3 was maybe just not the move for me. But yeah, everything else was good. I was really happy to play aggressively, to try and push the queen around. Actually, recently I won an online game with the same way, just finding ways to push the enemy queen around, gaining some tempi, being able to develop my pieces into more active positions by getting the queen giving the queen a push or two. And then finding this backwards rook move, which wasn't completely planned. I saw it thankfully kind of like come leading up to this, but very, very happy I found that, because I think I was playing a little bit dangerously, a little bit aggressively for my understanding of the defensive capabilities I had, but I found it. And at the end of the day, the one who doesn't make the final mistake is usually the winner, so thankfully I did not make the final mistake. Yeah, so that was it for round 2. Very, very happy that we finally got a point on the board. Now we were sitting on 1 out of 2, and we are going into the third round, which would be the end of the first day. So, ooh, Or was that the end of the first day actually? Maybe the second one was the end of the first day, and then we played 3 rounds on the second day actually. Oh. No, because my third round opponent went to dinner with us, and I only knew them because we had played in round 3. Yeah, so there was one more game to go for the first day, and I was very happy to at least have a chance to make it an equal day, or even maybe be able to come out with a positive score for day 1. So stay tuned, come back for round 3. It was really fun. Where this game was a little bit more slow and a bit of calculation, a bit of kind of running around in the middle. The third game started off with a massive bang, and I really felt the pressure. So I think you'd also enjoy seeing what happened there. Cool. So see you around for next time. Bye bye.